Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something. I don't know why it's taking me so long to record this video, but somebody actually requested it. So we're going to talk all about brain surgery recovery must-haves. Things that you should already either have in place or consider these things prior to you having your surgery so that it'll make the recovery go just a little bit smoother. All right, and then these are in no particular order. I have some notes written down. All right, one thing is a caregiver. When you first come home from the hospital, you cannot be alone. And I don't know why anybody would want to be alone, but you can't be alone. You need somebody there with you pretty much 24/7 to kind of monitor you, because when you first come home, you may not realize if your behavior is a little bit off. So you need someone there to kind of recognize that. And also, you need somebody to be driving you to and from your appointments, your post-op appointments. You can't drive in the beginning. You wouldn't really want to drive unless it was like a dire emergency, but for real, you shouldn't be driving. So you need a caregiver who's gonna be there pretty much 24/7. When I was recovering, I was staying at my parents' house, and my dad is retired, so he was with me most of the time. My mom was there. So that made it very comfortable, and it's nice to go to a place that you're very familiar with. For me, going back home was just, it was very nostalgic, and I think that really helped with my recovery because, I was in my old bedroom. It still pretty much looks mostly, the same, and that's the house that I grew up in. So it was very comforting being back at home. So caregiver is the first thing. All right, next, okay. A medication station, that's what I'm calling it, but a central place to keep all of your medications, keep them, kind of in track on what you need to take, when you need to take it. I actually have this notebook where I wrote down all of the medications I was taking, the day, the time. Actually, let me try to, all right. So you can pause it to look at that, but I was on a bunch of different medications. Actually, let me show you a different page that shows like the first day of me coming home. I have pages and pages. All right, bear with me. Okay, so this is a more realistic look. So I was writing down every medication that I was taking, the time that I was taking it, and then I was also setting alarms to keep myself on track, because you need to set, you're gonna have multiple alarms going off day, night, it doesn't matter, but you wanna be able to keep track of all of that. So I was on 5 medications when I first came home. I was on an antibiotic, a steroid, pain medication, the nasal spray, and then different types of pain medication. So I was on Oxy and extra strength Tylenol. I think I talked about that in a previous video. Yes, after brain surgery, you're going to be on extra strength Tylenol. I don't make up the rules. I was very surprised. I was expecting something a little heavy duty because the oxycodone that I was on was 5 milligrams. 5 milligrams felt like nothing. It took the edge off of the pain, but that's it. Anyway, my medication station was in my room. There was a bookshelf, and I just kept it right there on one of the shelves. And the notebook was there. All my meds were there. Every time I had to come back or I had to take some meds, I would go there, write it down, write the time, and then set my alarm for the next time. So have all your medications organized. If you want to have an organizer, but see, I don't know if you'd really be able to use that because you're not just going to have AM and PM meds. Like one of my meds was every 4 hours. Which one was that? The nasal spray was like every 4 hours. So anyway, figure out how you're going to do your medication station and stick to it. All right, the next one is a body pillow and multiple pillows, or if you have an adjustable bed, that's even better. And let me also say, this is brain surgery through the nose. It's called an endonasal approach. I should have said that in the beginning, but it's not a craniotomy. I have no experience with that, but if you have brain surgery through your nose, then that's what these tips are for. So a body pillow or a couple of pillows or an adjustable bed. And that's because for weeks, you're going to be extremely congested and you're not going to be able to lay flat. And laying flat would physically hurt you as well because the pressure in your head is altered after surgery. So if you try to lay flat, it feels like your brain is settling in the back of your head, and it's not comfortable. It's like borderline painful. So you're not going to want to lay flat anyway, but I would suggest having like a bunch of pillows to keep you propped up. Again, if you have an adjustable bed, that's all the better. The next one is a nasal rinse. This more so comes into play when you start the process of removing the packing that they put in your nose. I don't know if that's standard for everybody, but I had 3 inches of dissolvable packing from like here kind of up, like way up in there. And about 6 weeks after surgery, I had to start the process of removing that. So I got this. It comes in a kit. You can just get this at Target, CVS, Amazon. It's not prescription, but it's a nasal rinse bottle. So the cap has a hole in it, and you fill it with distilled water up to here. You put this saline pack in there, shake it up, and then you put it in your nostril, squeeze very gently. And I talked about this before, but squeeze gently. It's gonna go up one side, come down the other, do the other side. So this is a little while after you initially come home, but most likely you'll have to deal with this. And it's not painful, but at the beginning it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you get used to it. It's just part of the process. All right, next is soft foods. Okay. After I came home, I was not on a food restrictive diet. I could pretty much eat whatever I want. I was on restrictions for liquid intake at the beginning. And let me just run through this very quickly. When I was on the steroid, it was hydrocortisone. I could only drink 16 ounces, either 16 or 32 ounces of water per day. And that's because when you first come out of surgery, your kidney, at least mine, my kidneys weren't functioning normally. So I couldn't bombard them with a bunch of liquids as they were trying to like get back up to speed with having a piece of my pituitary gone. So my doctor told me to limit my water intake and then also monitor my water output, so my urine afterwards. And if I was only drinking about let's say, I think it was 16 ounces. If I was only drinking like 1 water bottle a day, then roughly that amount should be coming out. If I was having way more urine come out or way less, that would indicate a bigger problem. So that's with the liquids. Once I was cleared to get off of the steroid, then I could drink as much as I want. But in terms of food, I was not on a food restrictive diet. The reason I say soft foods is because when you have brain surgery, your head is in a clamp and it's extremely tight. I've talked about this before, but my head was in a Mayfield skull clamp. So there were 2 prongs on this side, 1 prong on this side, and it connects over the top. They wind it up and attach it to the operating table. But as they're winding it up, it's just pushing in. And so for my entire surgery, which was 8 hours, I had 60 pounds of pressure being pushed in. So with that being said, one of the prongs was like pushed up against the top of my jaw muscle. You have a muscle that comes up the side of your face and I don't know, connects somewhere up here, but it was pressing on that really hard and it pierced my scalp. So it was super painful to just open my mouth. Talking was painful, chewing was painful, hence where the soft foods come in. But yeah, I couldn't chew anything crunchy or just anything that would take a while to chew. So I was eating pretty soft foods in the beginning. Again, not because I couldn't eat anything else or I was restricted, but it was just too painful. So anticipate that. Damn earring. But if you don't have any pain in your jaw, then obviously you can eat whatever you want. But if you do have pain, just anticipate soft foods. All right, I think I have one more. All right, if you are an older person or if you already struggled with balance issues, I would definitely suggest a walker, a cane, some kind of socks that have like the no slip bottoms on it, especially if you have hardwood floors, something like that. Because your balance is a little bit off when you first come home. And this also goes back into having a caregiver. My doctor told me he asked me if I had two stories at home. And I was like, yeah, at my parents' house, there's 2 stories. So he said, when I'm going up and down the stairs, to have one person in front of me and one person behind me. Ideally, at all times, it may not always be realistic, but if I'm walking up the stairs, you want someone behind you so that if you kind of lose your balance, hopefully you don't like fall on them, but they can be there. They can kind of like touch you, hold you as you're walking up. And then if you start to lose your balance, they can at least kind of like nudge you forward. When you're coming down the stairs, you want someone in front of you. You can I was holding on to my dad's shoulders as I was going down the stairs. So, if you ever had any balance issues, or if you're an older person having this surgery, then definitely have some kind of walking assistance type of device. Pay attention to the your socks, or if you have slippers, whatever it is, help yourself to not slip and fall, because I wasn't deemed a fall risk, but I did notice that there were times where I felt a little bit off. And especially when you first stand up from seated, or you get up from the bed from more of a laying position, it can take a while for your equilibrium to balance out. And so you might feel this like little waves of dizziness. So just move slowly, take your time, and you should be good. But otherwise, there's not much else in terms of must-haves. It's kind of like you just bear the pain, try to get through the pain, go to all your post-op appointments. Do not miss any of your post-op appointments. I don't care what's going on, you go to your appointments. Hence, caregiver. But after that, you're just kind of passing time until you start feeling better. I would also advise you to be active a little bit, and you'll determine what your comfort level with activity is. For me, it was getting up, a few times during the day, just kind of walking around the house. I would walk upstairs, and I also would have to always go upstairs to my medication station. So that was one of my activities throughout the day. But getting little bits of activity, but lots of rest, lots and lots of rest. Do not rush the recovery process at all. Take as much time as you can off, if you're working especially, and yeah, you will get through it. It's not ideal, it's not comfortable, it's painful, it's all of the things, but you will get through it. So I think that's it. That's all I can think of. If I think of anything else, I'll put it in the description. But yeah, those are my brain surgery recovery must-haves. If you've had brain surgery and I missed something on this list, please share it down below.